And welcome to another edition of East LA Sports Scene in Studio Chapter version. And we're going to be able to speak today to a person who is very involved in our community, and he is doing many, many good things in terms of his job profession. And we're going to really learn more about the athletic connection or the sports connection that our guest tonight is going to be speaking about in depth in our program tonight. And it gives us great pleasure and very significant honor to bring to our studio and to our viewers Mr. Raul Diaz.
Thank you. Thank you, Rico.
And Raul,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Inviting me onto your show, and thank you for...
And as many times as we do here on the show, Raul, we not only interview coaches and players, but we give the whole gamut and the whole spectrum of individuals that are doing things in our community, and whether they have a social or a very, very good cause that they're promoting, there's also sometimes and many times a sports connection. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into that in our discussion tonight with you and what you're doing there at your place of work, and that happens to be, of course, HOMEBOY Industries. And let's begin by telling our viewers a little bit about your present job, and then we're going to go back to the beginning and your roots here in East LA.
Well, I'm currently the site manager here at the HOMEBOY Learning Works site. Okay. It's the HOMEBOY charter site of their high school program component for students 14 to 18 years of age who were lacking the motivation, the discipline to stay in a regular public high school. Okay. That were just struggling with either social skills, struggling with probably gangs and drugs, some of them teen pregnancies, you know. Yes. It's a very good school for students. They don't have a big support group at home. Okay. And that school provides several teachers, tutors, TAs, other support agencies that come in, other support services that come in through HOMEBOY at the school. So I'm the site manager there.
And that's right on First Street.
Right on First Street, 1916 East First Street.
Okay. And again, right here in the community of Boyle Heights. Let's talk a little bit about your past, the beginnings of the Diaz family, and of course, Raul Diaz as a youngster here in East LA. Let's talk about that.
Well, born in East LA's Doctor's Hospital, which old clinic there on Whittier Boulevard. Raised in the Pico Gardens Housing Projects here in Boyle Heights, right off of 4th and Glass. Sure. Grew up in an era where drugs were pretty much infesting our whole community, from the different types of drugs that you would see people high walking up and down our streets in public housing. Oh, wow. It was a very hard time to grow up and watch that, where gang activity was at the highest and at the scariest during the 90s and late 80s. Yes. I grew up in that generation there in Boyle Heights.
Okay. And to say the least, a very fine line to walk to get to school and back and do family things and chores and go about the family business. And
that reminds me of first day of junior high school, walking to Hollenbach Junior High School. Because of where I was raised and because where I was living, I was chased by rival gang members to the community where I grew up in, and I wasn't even a gang member. Okay. So I guess I was guilty by association. I don't know how that worked. Yes. But it was very hard to grow up in that generation, grow up in that time frame where you couldn't talk to kids up by Hollenbach Park, and you couldn't talk to your kids from your peers from Hollenbach Junior High School. You know, so I grew up in a generation that it was hard to have normal friendships outside of your community.
Okay. So, but nonetheless, life went on, and your parents right there to shepherd you through and bring you up.
Mother was a very strong lady who said she didn't want us getting involved in that lifestyle, and she tried her hardest to get us into sports at a very young age. And me being the youngest of 8 brothers, all who played baseball and ran cross country for Roosevelt High School, it's like, wow, I think I'm destined to play baseball or run cross country. And that's how... Very strong mother, very disciplined, and very good brothers at home. So
well, the nucleus is there. She had an eye for you as a youngster to get into sports, and then of course you had almost a baseball team of brothers.
A baseball team,
at least a basketball team of 5.
One of my older brothers organized a softball team for Pecan Park, and he named it La Familia. And it was 7 brothers on one baseball team, and we recruited like 4 other guys from the neighborhood. So pretty much as a whole family in one softball team.
And I want to at this point insert the fact that you mentioned 8 brothers, the youngest of 8, and we happen to know one of your older brothers, Joe Diaz.
My brother Joe Diaz,
very, very supportive of us here at the Boyle Heights Technology and Youth Center, where of course he works, and has been a very solid contributor to the community for all his life. Just quickly, your relationship with Joe.
My brother Joe, man, besides being the best brother I have. He's been a very good supporter in the youth programs that I helped start put together back in the mid 90s, 96, 97, when I started realizing the gang problem was getting out of control. And now I had an opportunity to prevent some of that from happening. And my brother Joe has been my number one supporter from back, I would honestly say 1995, the summer of 95. Joe was in there saying, let's do this. Let's invite these politicians here, and let's do this, and let's create this event, and let's let the community know that we're doing this inside Pico Gardens.
Nice.
He's been my biggest supporter of youth programs, you know, and he's a good guy to hang out with.
All right.
Great heart.
Yes, yes, and you both certainly love and cherish and care for your community, as evidenced by where you work. You work actually where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this
walking
area.
the neighborhood, people tend to say, we look like each other. I get mistakenly, I can be at Jim's Burgers and someone be like, Joe, it was nice meeting with you the other day. And I'm sitting there like, like I'm pretending I'm Joe Diaz. And I'd have to give a report to Joe and say, hey, so-and-so said hi. And he said he wants you to call him back and this and that. We've both done a lot of good work in this community, and we enjoy it. You know, it's a good feeling to give back. And we
know Joe is a huge Dodger fan, and as you are, because I've asked who some of your favorite players and teams, and of course the LA Dodgers #1. Yeah. And you mentioned the likes of Steve Sachs and a couple of others.
Steve Sachs, Raul Mondesi, Mickey Hatcher. They were literally dirty players. They like to get dirty on the baseball field.
Yes.
They like to try hard. They went the extra mile to motivate their teammates. And I looked up to that at a young age, and I said, man, that's the type of team player I want to be.
Yes.
I want to be the clown that motivates the players. So let's go strong and let's go out there and have fun. Once we start to have fun, the scores will come in, you know.
Yes.
And you try hard, of course you're going to have fun. So vice versa, it worked out really good. It was those players that I looked up to, like, they're team players right there. They're hard, dirty players.
Consistently they're in the mix trying again to get that championship.
Yeah.
And I do believe at some point in time this nucleus of players produced a pennant or two for the Dodgers.
Yes.
And possibly, was this the World Series era?
The World Series in '88.
Oh, the last one. Yeah.
Steve Sachs, I believe, was on that team. But he was one of those go-getters that got us going and made me become a real true Dodger fan.
Okay. Well, Raul, you have certainly kept your link to sports alive, and we're going to speak about that here in a moment. But before we do that, HOMEBOY Industries is doing very well at this point, as I would say, in the social spectrum or consciousness here in the city, due to, I think, a very big LA Times op-ed piece that began to really refocus where people's donations should be going. And sometimes it needs to come back home, too, what you're doing at HOMEBOY Industries and Father Greg Boyle for what he's doing. And now this seems to have taken hold where the recognition of what you do on a daily basis is going to be more appreciated and financially funded. I believe maybe the LA County supervisors are voting that into the budget.
That's the support we need right now. We need our local politicians to really recognize the impact that HOMEBOY Industries is making. For example, the services that HOMEBOY Industries provides to young men and women that are incarcerated in juvenile detention centers. HOMEBOY Industries provides free tattoo removal service for those young men and women that while they're incarcerated, they're looking at a way to change their lives. And most of them need that first step of removing those tattoos, removing those scars that indicate that they're gang members. HOMEBOY Industries provides free service to that. There's no other place in the county or probably in the country that provides free tattoo removal service. And the county has to recognize that, wow, HOMEBOY Industries is making a difference.
Yes.
HOMEBOY Industries is providing something that's not put in the county budget, but yet they're providing this. The county needs to come up and really recognize what Father Boyle does.
Yes.
And what he's doing there is he's changing lives. People may say they're gang members. They belong in jail. They belong here. They belong there. But the truth of the matter is they're residents of our community. And I'm speaking on Boyle Heights only.
Yes.
We have a lot of clients that go into HOMEBOY Industries. But clients come from all over the county.
Yes.
We have some young men and women traveling from as far as San Bernardino on a train, 2 hours every morning to get to work.
Yes.
Coming from as far as Ventura County because no one else wanted to hire these people.
Right.
But I'm talking about the people in Boyle Heights who have scars. HOMEBOY Industries started in Boyle Heights in the Dolores Mission Church.
Yes.
You know, in the parish of Dolores Mission.
Mm-hmm.
And here in Boyle Heights, we had a very serious gang problem in the 90s, in the 80s. And Father Greg Boyle stepped up and created a school, and created a tortilla shop, created a bakery, created graffiti removal. And it's time for the county and the city to recognize all the work that HOMEBOY Industries has done for us.
Yes.
The county and the city in general.
Okay. Well, we're going to hold that thought here as we weave the story that we're going to be presenting here, because we're not going to let sports get away from our topic, because that is not at the forefront, but it's going to be now through your efforts. We want to see that woven in to some of the creative alternatives that can be offered to embrace the community, to in fact, rally them when there are circumstances that merit that. So we are under the impression, Raul, and we're going to give you the opportunity to speak about a very unique concept involving sports and basketball, and it's all under the auspices of HOMEBOY Industries and yourself as the project director. Let's talk about that. At least get it going right now.
Many years ago, I would say back in '98, there was a topic that kept on coming up in our youth centers. And they were coming up in our local junior high schools. I heard it first in Hollenbach Junior High. There was this thing that I couldn't believe was going on in our community. It was teenage kids that were cutting themselves.
Oh.
And I kept hearing about this, and I said, no way, we don't got kids like that in our community. We got gang members. We got kids that come from abusive homes, but we don't got kids that commit suicide.
No.
I remember I was thinking like this. I was thinking, that doesn't exist here.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a topic that just doesn't exist here. And I started hearing more and more about it. I started seeing kids from the development where I grew up having these scars.
Oh, boy.
And I started recognizing this, and the mental health department team at HOMEBOY Industries, a good friend of mine, Mario Pierto, started pointing out to me, there's this issue that exists here.
Yeah.
So we started, this was back then, and I really didn't pay attention to it until I started really getting into it, and I started realizing, wow, there's kids here that are suicidal. There's kids here that are hurting themselves to take the pain away from their daily routine that's bothering them inside their homes.
Oh, yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
And we started looking into it. And you mentioned the basketball aspect to this. And we see a Roosevelt High School football helmet here and a football. And a lot of us that grew up in the Roosevelt generation and know Roosevelt football and history will know the name David Isiah. And I speak highly of David Isiah. David Isiah was a mentor of mine.
Oh, okay.
He was a friend of mine.
Oh.
He was one of those guys who said, I don't want to see you hanging out with these guys. I don't want to see you hanging out with these fools, meaning the gang members.
Yes.
You don't belong there, Raul. You don't belong there.
Okay.
So the connection to HOMEBOY, the mental health department, the stuff I started to realize that's going on in our communities, not just in the housing development, but in Boyle Heights in general, and in the football and the sports. So many years, I believe, it was not many years, I believe it was, I want to say 1999. Was it 99? I believe, well, it was unfortunate that David Isiah committed suicide.
Oh, no.
David Isiah was a record breaker for LA Unified School Districts and yards rushed for Roosevelt High School.
Oh.
He went off to play in Sonoma State, playing football there, and all those kids from the community kept on speaking of David Isiah. Like, he's up there playing college ball. The last person that we knew of that was Fred Wade.
Oh.
But we were too young to really know about Fred Wade, so it was David Isiah who was our generation, who was our Emmett Smith from the community.
There you go.
He was our superstar. And I say it still, and it hurts. David Isiah was a kid that put Pico Gardens on the map.
Okay.
So when this incident happened, I can remember clearly. I was already working youth programs out of Dolores Mission Church. I got the news, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe the news that our good friend has passed away. And walking back from 3rd and Glass to 3rd and 4th to 5th and Glass, And you'd see all the kids out there, and all my friends and all my peers were like, "Did you hear the news?"
Mm.
It was devastating.
Oh, my goodness.
It was devastating. We just heard that he passed away. You know, David Isiah, to this day, we don't know why he did it. We have no idea.
Okay.
Some people may. To me, it's probably important, but it's not important for me to know. When this started going on, and I started really getting serious into youth programs and saying, we have to make a difference in this community.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do this? How do we get
Okay.
kids to come together? You know?
Okay.
And it was during the Thanksgiving break at Pico Aliso where a group of kids were playing basketball.
Okay.
Wintertime, they weren't hanging out.
And this is just recently. Would you say the past year or two?
No,
Or-
this was 11 years ago.
Oh, okay. So
11 years ago,
okay.
where some kids approached me and says, "Hey, let's create a tournament."
Okay.
Because at the time, people had known that I was organizing cleanup days,
Okay.
mural projects, Easter egg hunts. I had coached roller hockey for the
Okay.
Police Activities League.
Sure.
I never played hockey in my life, but I was coaching roller hockey.
Nice. Yeah.
These kids approached me on basketball. I was always the last kid to be picked
Uh-huh.
on a team, even on a pickup game, because
Yeah.
I knew nothing about basketball. So when these kids approached me to organize something, and I said, "Okay, cool, let's do something."
Okay.
With David still fresh in our hearts and fresh in our minds, a good friend of mine who played Pop Warner football with David in the Montebello, East LA Bobcats, Carlos Vasquez said, "Let's create a tournament."
Okay.
And I was like, okay. We sat down, we talked over the details, and we said, let's name it the David Isiah 3-on-3 basketball
Oh,
tournament.
okay. Right.
That's where the
Okay.
name the David Isiah 3-on-3 basketball tournament came about.
Okay.
But the goal of the tournament was to bring out the importance of teen suicide
Okay.
through sports.
Yes.
Kobe
Okay.
Bryant was our new Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe Bryant was our superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basketball that was bringing kids to the court. It was
Yes.
basketball that was uniting kids to the court from different parts of Boyle Heights.
Okay. Raul, keep that thought there because we're going to take our first break
Okay.
and come right back because it's a very, very important story that we are relating to you, especially through the eyes and the emotion, the feeling for a good friend of his has departed and is resting in peace. Of course, David Isiah. We're going to continue on with that story and bring it to its conclusion here on East LA Sports Scene. This edition with our special guest, Raul Diaz. He is the site manager, project director at HOMEBOY Industries, the First Street building location. We'll be back in a moment. This is East LA Sports Scene. And welcome back as we continue with our guest, Raul Diaz, and we are right in the middle of talking about the teen suicide prevention project that he is very, very involved with right now, and it's through basketball. And when we left off, Raul was explaining the tournament concept to raise funds and awareness.
Yes.
You mentioned Kobe Bryant. You mentioned a lot of ideas that we're bringing now our kids into the basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, now the committee still working strongly on raising funds for the David Isiah Foundation memory.
Yes.
You're still active. Let's pick it up from there, Raul, with that committee going forth.
Well, the committee, like Rico said, like you said earlier, the 3-on-3 tournament went on for 8 years strong.
Okay.
Thanks to donations from the Housing Authority City of Los Angeles, thanks to Antonio Villaraigosa's staff when he was councilman and then he became mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to HOMEBOY Silkscreen and HOMEBOY Industries for providing us the support we needed. And there was a lot of agencies that came out and said, this is a great idea.
Yes.
This was a great idea. We went 8 years strong. We had over 600 kids participants, and that include kids, children, teenagers, and their parents come out to Pico Aliso Park
Yes.
to have a day of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We fed everyone top quality hamburgers, and we
Yeah.
had snacks and
Sure.
waters and fruit and candy bars. We gave them shirts. Everyone received a shirt. We gave trophies out to the first place, second place, and third place team.
Nice.
We created a plaque with all the winners from each year.
Okay.
And that plaque was traveling to Hollenbeck Junior High School, Roosevelt High School,
Okay.
HOMEBOY Industries, Pecan Park, Pico Aliso Park, the new Boyle Heights City Hall. It was in there for a while.
Yes. Okay.
So it was a plaque that traveled where people were able to recognize their names once they won that tournament.
Okay.
8 years strong. And then We had a fall. We had a fall. There was a lot of people lacking the donations financially. We couldn't run it, and some personal issues came up with the committee. And recently we met up again, and we're ready to rock and roll for the summer of 2014. We're looking at the first week of June, last week of May, to get the tournament started. Why are we looking at that day? We are looking at the day for several reasons. One, because we're still going to focus on the importance of suicide prevention. We're also going to look at the importance of getting kids involved in sports during the summertime. School doesn't go out until late June. We want this tournament to be the eye-opener to say we need to keep our kids active during the summertime. We all know that summer jobs are pretty low this time around. There's not much jobs coming around for the teenagers. We can't afford to have these teenagers just hanging out at home. We just can't afford to do that.
That's true.
So
now, can I ask a few questions just on behalf of the viewers that may want to get behind this and know more? Will there be a website at some point where the public can go and learn more? Yes,
we will create websites. We'll create a Facebook page. We'll create banners and information, and flyers will go out. We're going to create the information that has to go out there. We want kids to come out and really get back into this. We have kids that played in this 9 years ago that are now in the military, that been military, graduated from universities. I believe there's a couple of kids that went to Illinois and Wisconsin, a couple of kids in Boston College. Some kids that just graduated from USC in graduate program. They were involved in this tournament. And they want to come back and help out. So
all right.
Well, we will get the word out.
On that note, is there something more instantly if they reach you at HOMEBOY Industries?
They can reach me at HOMEBOY. They can reach me at 1916 East 1st Street. I'm there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can reach me at Pico Aliso Park on Monday evenings, supporting the basketball leagues that are going on now. They have a new high school league going on. Kids who are not playing for high schools basketball teams are playing on Wednesday evenings here at Pico Aliso Park. I'll go there and show my face. And one of our big supporters this year is Pablo Cisneros, who runs the recreation center here at Pico Aliso. He would also be very well informed with the 3-on-3 tournament.
Might there be an email, just a generic email that
right now
this?
There'll be an email. I haven't got all those details yet, but there will be a Facebook, or you can reach me on my Facebook at Raul Diaz. Rulis is Rulies, Diaz, D-I-Z. The information will come up there. Wonderful. And then we'll link it to all the others.
Beautiful. And another question would be for age categories. Is it by divisions?
We're looking at age divisions. We're looking at starting off at the age of 9, and we'll divide them up. Carlos Vasquez, who's the basketball expert. He's the one who knows how to break this down. And like I said, Carlos Vasquez handles that. I'll handle the community outreach aspect of this. Carlos Vasquez, Pablo Cisneros, and Valverde Holguin will handle the details as far as what's going on in the park.
And might it also be co-ed, or will it be separate?
It is co-ed.
Boys and girls
there will
divisions?
Be co-ed, and there'll be boys and girls. We had young ladies that wanted to compete against the boys, and we're like, go ahead, bring it on, and show them how dedicated you are to the sport. And have to say, those girls are pretty strong, man. They're pretty strong.
Now, again, we have been speaking about HOMEBOY Industries, and again, this very, very strong effort to weave a connector in for a strong fundraising cause. And prevention of teen suicide would be the main cause at this point for the tournament. Might there be other things you will be looking at in terms of maybe softball tournaments or some other types of sports engagements that would be good for the community?
One of the things that, and again, football's at the center of this table, the concept of flag football hasn't been around in Boyle Heights in quite a while. We want to create a flag football tournament for that age group of 16 to 17, 18 years of age. Why flag football? Well, some of us don't have the ability to play Pop Warner, let's face it. Some of our kids don't have the financial needs to play. They didn't play Pop Warner, Wolfpack, or something. We just want people to relive that football dream of theirs. We want to create a flag football tournament. And of course, softball is always a plus. Baseball's my sport.
Yes.
But I was looking at a flag football tournament after the David Isiah tournament.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned HOMEBOY Industries and the suicide prevention aspect. It's also an intervention prevention at the same time in this tournament, because we bring kids from every major housing development from in the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We had kids from Nickerson Gardens, Jordan Downs, Imperial Courts, and Watts,
Yes.
to kids from Ramona Gardens, Estrada Courts, and William Meade, Pico Gardens, and Pico Elisa.
Oh,
We were able to bring kids from those areas, and of course, the local gang members in those housing developments were also welcome.
Sure.
We don't welcome gang banging activity.
Mm-hmm.
A gang member who wants to change his life around, who wants to play in a tournament, who has that ability of playing sports, you are welcome to play.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You are welcome. You are not welcome to come and gang bang
Right.
here.
Right.
We have to stress that this is a family sport. And the 8 years that we had this tournament,
Mm-hmm.
with the population that we served, we never had one incident over gang activity.
Mm-hmm.
We had incidents over the adrenaline of competitiveness
Sure.
on the court,
Mm-hmm.
which is always welcome.
Oh, yeah.
It's in our nature to be competitive,
Of course.
and that was always welcome. But again, we have a strong group of supporters. Juan Romero from Primera Taza, I got to throw his name out there. He was
Yes.
one of our referees in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yes, he was.
And he's Juan Romero's that real strict, hardcore guy that would break up anything
Sure.
that goes on.
Yeah.
Carlos Vasquez, Leo Valente, these were people who played basketball. Manny Valencia, they played basketball for
Sure,
Roosevelt.
sure.
And they know the competitors, and they're like, hey, Ro, we're going to let this go on, but we're going to, we know when there's a fine
Sure.
line.
Okay.
So in those years, with the population that we served, people were in shock that we never had a gang problem.
Oh, wonderful. That's very, very encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back just for a moment here, Raul, and talk about the Isiah family. Is there still some relationship you have with
Very
with
good.
his
Very good question.
okay family members?
His wife,
Okay.
who one of the things, again, we all make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I created this tournament without approaching her first.
Mm.
And it was something that really bothered me.
Okay.
But it was one of those things that I just got started. And it's like, whoa, I felt really guilty over it.
Mm-hmm.
Until one day, we sat and we talked.
Okay.
And I apologized.
Yeah.
But I created the tournament because David Isiah was very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Yeah,
very
sure.
important to me. And his daughter, Devian Isiah,
Mm-hmm.
approached me on Facebook some years back.
Oh.
And it was just a blessing for her to say, I want to be a part of that.
Oh, good. Wow.
And I was like, wow. And she's
Nice.
now, I believe 22 years old.
Oh, wonderful.
And I have to say, the family has been very supportive.
Supportive.
His mother,
Good.
Miss Stevens, his grandmother, has come to every tournament. She's
Mhm.
our honorary guest. She gives
Okay.
our introduction, gives our prayer at the beginning of each tournament.
Mm-hmm.
His
Oh,
family
oh.
comes out to these tournaments, and his Aunt Petey has always been a big supporter of us.
Okay.
Petey, who's a big supporter of the girls' basketball program
Uh-huh.
at Roosevelt.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, yeah, the family comes out, and I'm very
Wonderful.
proud to say that we got the endorsement and support of his daughter, and,
Okay.
and it's a big plus for me personally
Okay.
to get that support.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And any funds that are raised goes towards a
So it goes to the
memorial
David Isiah
or
memorial.
a foundation.
The foundation is going to come in, and again, that information, I should have been prepared. We met with this over a week ago,
Mhm.
but that information will come out,
Okay.
and people will hear about this, and hopefully I could come back
Oh,
to you and you
definitely.
can announce it one day
Sure.
and let
Sure.
people know that the David Isiah tournament is in full force.
Yeah, we're going to have you come back at least in one of our shows in May,
Yes.
or maybe
please.
early May, and give it enough time to sink in, and then be ready for the start of June.
Thank you. I would be
Okay.
glad to come back.
All right, Raul, we've pretty much gone through the list here of the categories and the areas I wanted to speak to you about, and I know that again you're doing great things here at HOMEBOY Industries again with the youth employment project as well.
Yeah, it's the HOMEBOY Youth Learning Works site, which is a
The-
high school program.
Okay, wonderful.
Um,
And again, going back to one of your influencers, of course, Father Boyle.
Father
You
Boyle.
mentioned him, and your mom.
Yes.
I want to bring those
My
two
mom.
individuals in again for you to talk about.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
giving me that opportunity. Well, of course, everyone's mother's special.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's special as well. And I have to say, growing up in a home with 8 brothers, not everyone was a saint. Not everyone was a schoolboy. Not everyone was a church-going Sunday Bible studying kid.
Yeah.
My mother, I found out, was one of the ladies who started soccer programs out of Belvedere Park in the 70s. She was one of the first ladies to start soccer programs.
And her name?
Is Guadalupe.
Guadalupe.
Rodriguez back then, and then it became Diaz.
Yes.
And for me to see pictures, and I couldn't believe it, but my mom was a bunch of kids, and she was coaching soccer. And I'm looking at these pictures and like, man, and now you go to Belvedere Park, and that's iconic, right? That's symbolism of soccer in East LA and Boyle Heights.
Nice.
If you make it a Belvedere as a little kid in soccer, you're gonna make it in high school soccer.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So seeing her, and then seeing her involvement in the community to get kids away from gangs.
Yes.
Growing up and looking at her and all her friends, being a backbone and supporter of Father Greg Boyle when Father Greg came here 26 years ago.
Yes.
It was like, wow.
Okay.
My mother's a really good activist. My mom's a community activist with a lot of ladies like Paula Hernandez and Rosa Campos and Eloisa. And these are ladies who grew up in the community. And you mentioned Father Boyle. Father Boyle was able to create a program here in our community through the women. And that program was empowering the women to stand up for themselves.
Okay.
Stand up for their community, stand up for their children. And to see what Father Boyle created through our mothers, there was no way I can just let that die out there.
Yeah.
And that's where I got involved in community work.
Okay.
But Father Greg Boyle's dedication to helping families, not just gang members.
Yeah.
We're talking families in need of groceries, in need of paying some electricity bills, paying rent, being there for me as a kid who was not involved in gangs, to get me involved in youth groups and youth programs, to take me out of the community and let me know there's another world out there.
There you go.
And in that time when I was growing up, a lot of us thought that the projects was the only thing we had. Fort and Soto was jungles away. It was too dangerous to get to Fort and Soto. Father Boyle was able to get us out of the community, you know, and the work he did with the ladies and to see the empowerment that they were creating for our community was just something I couldn't just turn my back away and say, thank you, Father Greg, thank you, Mom, thank you, ladies, for doing this for our community.
Wow. Very
That's
powerful.
when the youth groups came about. That's when my brother Joe said, let's do this.
Okay.
Friend Juan Carlos Esparza, who played football. So there was just this thing with sports, mental health, HOMEBOY Industries, my mother. Very influential people that got me to get on the track that I'm on.
All right. Raul, we're going to take our last break here and come right back just for a quick wrap-up, and we're going to move on from there. But don't go away. We're going to come back to our viewers here. We're going to finish up with our special guest tonight, Raul Diaz, and we have really, really been going into some history of Boyle Heights and sports, along with his current job at HOMEBOY Industries. We'll be back with our wrap-up in just a moment. This is East LA Sports Scene. Okay, and bringing our show to conclusion, as we always do here on East LA Sports Scene, I turn to my guests and offer that very, very good opportunity to look straight into the camera. And if there's any party messages you want to leave with our viewers tonight, Raul, be my guest.
Thank you once again. We talked about pretty much the history of Raul Diaz and doing work and doing sports. And I think it's very important that I mention the part how important a role that, I should say, how important the Boyle Heights Wolfpack program has made a difference in our community.
Okay.
And I got to thank Nisam. Nisam would pick us up in our communities and take us to Evergreen Park.
Yes.
When no one else can get us a ride over there. Our parents didn't have cars. Nisam would pick us up from every housing development, every parts of Boyle Heights.
Nice.
What Boyle Heights Wolfpack did for our community is something that no one else has ever done. It brought us together.
Sure.
It brought us to bring pride for our kids in Pop Warner. And Pop Warner has this stereotype that it's too rough. The parents and fans are too aggressive. Nisam taught us at a very young age that he's going to be aggressive to us on that football field.
Okay.
And I bring that up because my teammate was Raymond Reese, who's the varsity baseball coach at Roosevelt.
Okay.
And this last few words that I wanted to say is Wolfpack brought that together. a support like Raymond Reese and Nisam, who still walks our community, I thank them because of sports. I thank them for introducing me to friends outside of my development, outside of the projects.
Yes.
That was able to introduce me to friends everywhere.
Yeah.
And I want to spread that sports is important to keep our kids out of trouble, to motivate them, to build that self-esteem, to get them to be goal set to play high school sports. And with that, we have to keep them to focus on education. Our kids can't play sports unless they have their education.
And in getting that education, they understand the values and the core principles of giving back to the community, as evidenced by this past Saturday
Yes.
with the Boyle Heights cleanup. A very, very outstanding community event. And
was-
some of your students were there.
We
as well.
took some of our students from HOMEBOY Industries to clean up, and it was good to see everyone interacting, from the population of HOMEBOY Industries to the I Am Foundation to the firefighting program out of
Yes.
Boyle Heights.
Hackla was there.
Hackla was there. The Boyle Heights Technology Center was there.
Yes.
There was a lot. Girl
Councilman
Scouts.
Weezer. And
Councilman
oh,
Weezer.
everybody.
The Girl
Yeah.
Scouts were there. Little
Nice.
kids cleaning up our community. Young
Absolutely.
girls, the ages of, I think it was 7 to like 9 years old,
Yes.
or 7 to 10. But to bring the community together is a powerful thing,
Okay.
and we have to say, Boyle Heights is a very rich community.
Rich and vibrant and progressive and always willing to take care of its own.
Yes.
We know that for a fact. And with that, Raul, we want to say thank you very much. Muchas
Thank you very
gracias.
much.
Thanks for
Gracias.
coming in.
Thank you, guys.
And giving that story. Again, it's not over. We're going to come back
Yes.
with
yes.
more of the David Isiah fundamental informations
Yes.
that need to go out to our viewers that want to get involved.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so hopefully we'll
Thank
see you in May.
Thank you.
All
Keep
right.
up the great work.
That will do it for this edition of East LA Sports. And we thank again Raul Diaz, HOMEBOY Industries, and he is the site manager on First Street. And we're going to come back with him, as we mentioned, in May to give more details about the David Isiah 3-on-3 basketball tournament to be held here at the Pico Liso Recreation Center.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Till we're together again, make sure you get that workout in. You can rugby, basketball, of course, football, as Raul mentioned. There's soccer, baseball, and right now we're happening to be in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
So make sure you get out there, and if you want to do skiing, take that up as well. But until we're together again, take care and remember, stay healthy. You will be wealthy. Take care. We'll see you soon.